Support for this podcast comes from Frito-Lay and the 2023 Snack Bracket Championship. The Frito-Lay Snack-It Challenge is underway, and fans are voting on their favorite snacks to crown champion. We're talking about prime-time matchups between the best 64 snacks in the land. Will Ruffles Ridges reign supreme? Can Doritos defend their dynasty? Or will Smart Food use their smarts for a surprise upset? Only you can decide. Get in on all the action for a chance to win up to $1,000 or a year's worth of snacks. Let your snacks be heard. Just go to fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com to vote and enter for a chance to win. No purchase necessary. Sweepstakes ends April 3rd, 2023. Void where prohibited. Year's worth of snacks awarded in the form of 52 coupons, each good for one bag of chips. See official rules at fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com.
Welcome to the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Jeff Sharon, Eric Lopez, and Brian Murphy here with you on Thanksgiving week. We've made it all the way to the war on I-4, and we've got a loaded show for you here as the fall sports equinox continues. Lots to look back on, lots to look forward to. We've got, of course, we got the big game on Friday. We got, men's basketball with a couple big wins. You got women's basketball. You got volleyball winning the American. We got men's soccer advancing to the Sweet 16. We got Eric Lopez calling golden goals all over the place. What's going on?
It's good. I'm preserving the voice. Just happy to survive the fun weekend. Murph, I'm just glad you survived the Orleans period.
I know, Murph. You went to two football games in New Orleans and somehow managed to not be found on Bourbon Street completely naked.
No, not without a lack of trying, Jeffrey. I will say
that ended up with the same exact score.
Yeah,
that was pointed out to me by Eric DeSalvo, who also went to the Saints game on Sunday. But yeah, I will say the 11 o'clock start, local time for the Tulane game, it wasn't very kind to your boy, but we all made it work.
Well, we have, nonetheless, we'll talk a little bit about that Tulane game here, but we'll start with, by the way, a couple guests for the show. We're double dipping because we're recording a day early because of the Thanksgiving holiday. By the way, happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Early happy Thanksgiving to you too, boys. And we've got Nathan Bond from the Daily Stampede, the managing editor, coming on board to talk about what has happened to USF Football. What might happen after the UCF-USF game on Friday. And a little bit later, Todd Dagenais joins us, head volleyball coach at UCF, to talk about his team's championship, winning the American at home, winning 3 matches in 3 days to do so, beating Cincinnati, and now they are headed to the NCAA Tournament as well. So, but we will start with the transition from the win at Tulane for UCF, a 34-31 victory, much closer than I think a lot of people really wanted. The line was 6, nonetheless, but UCF came out.
Hey, we made it again.
Win is a win. Bad beats, brother. Jeez, Louise.
UCF, the school of bad beats.
What is it now, Eric? It's 1-7 against the spread.
Correct, but they're now 9-4 in games that start noon or earlier. So,
well,
see, both trends continue.
So
why
Murph,
why you listen to this show?
Right. So Murph, you were there. It was, I thought that the performance overall was pretty solid. Let's give Tulane some credit. I think they're a better football team than people think. I think people just kind of look at Tulane and they're like, oh, come on, it's Tulane, but Tulane's a good team. And even though UCF jumped out to a 24-7 third quarter lead, Tulane kind of crept back into it there in the second half. Are there any concerns over that? I mean, what's the mood coming out of that game for UCF?
The concern would have been if this game sort of played out like the Tulsa game, right? Where, they sort of disintegrate in the third quarter and it slips away. And you sort of wonder what could have been, but that didn't happen here, right? It did start to feel that way in the second half, in that third quarter after the long kickoff return, the first kickoff return that UCF's given up since 2017, and then they come out. The offense comes out with Dylan Gabriel, goes 3 and out, and then Tulane comes back, gets a field goal, and all of a sudden it's down to I believe, a 7-point game at that point, and UCF needs a drive to get something going, and they come up with one, mostly due to Otis Anderson and his he made plays all over the field at different spots. He's amazing, but that little short, I would call it more of a square end than a slant, but that little pass over the middle where he broke a tackle and kind of sped through a hole for about 58 yards, which was then converted into a touchdown on 4th and goal at the 2, but to Anthony Roberson, no less. That really was the game. Those are the kind of drives that we did not see UCF do when things got tough against Cincinnati or when things got tough against Tulsa. And we were all sort of sitting there as the Green Wave got closer saying, this feels like deja vu. But when they needed it, they got a drive and converted. And I know it ended up being a 3-point game, but there's a massive backdoor cover that you saw on ESPN last night if you're watching Scott Van Pelt.
Oh, boy,
so it wasn't that close anyway. That really was the drive that determined the game, and something that we had not seen much out of them.
Couple things that I obviously do need to get cleaned up. The big takeaway for me in terms of like things that need improvement was the special teams. My goodness, it was not just giving up the kick return, but it was really messy on special teams, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, so you had Dylan. Well, of course, I put out the tweet about Dylan Barnes had made 56 straight kicks. He hadn't missed a field goal or an extra.
It was you. I knew it was you.
He hadn't missed a field goal or an extra point since the FAU game in September, week 2. So of course his next try gets basically dropped by the holder. I believe that's is that Alex Harris, or maybe Andrew.
Wait a minute. If that's the case, then we can't blame you, Brian Murphy, for that.
I am.
Well, no. See, the thing is, if I don't tweet that doesn't happen. The snap's great, the hold's great, it goes through, and we go to 57. But because I put the jinx out there that he made 56 in a row, then all of a sudden things go batty. So that happened. The kickoff return, happened. Yeah, I understand. Again, it's the first one they've given up in 2 years, more than 2 years. So, I mean, I don't know. I didn't come out of that saying, like, wow, this team's got major issues on special teams, more than I already thought like they did. I know this team on punt return, it hasn't been great at times, but they'll admit, like, a lot of times that's because they don't do a whole lot of punt return in live games with their offense being pretty efficient. Yeah. So, I don't really worry about that. Go on to your next point of contention.
Well, actually, it was kind of on the flip side of that. Dylan Gabriel, 24-46, 317 yards and a touchdown. Also carried the ball 12 times for 58 net yards. Marlon Williams actually led UCF in receiving with 9 catches for 119 and a touchdown. I thought that this was a big growing up game for Dylan Gabriel because just based on what I was seeing, and I don't know about you guys, I want to get both of your input on this. Mm-hmm. Tulane's game plan from my amateur eye seemed to be, all right, we're going to let the freshman beat us. And let's see what he does. And this time around, Dylan Gabriel won the football game. They forced him to throw 46 times. I know he missed on 22 of them, but he still threw for over 300 yards. And he was effective with his legs in the rushing game, like we said. So, what's the evaluation of the offense under Dylan Gabriel post that game?
I think it was shocking, really. I mean, I don't use that lightly. It was shocking to see how often he was keeping the ball on those read option plays, which I think everyone's been sort of screaming for since the Pitt game. And you saw that more. And you're probably right, Jeffrey. You're probably right that Tulane, was crashing down more, and he just saw it and took it and kept it. And he used his leg. And moreover, he trusted himself to make those plays, which I think he admits is something that he has grown into as the season's gotten older, that he trusts himself more to make those plays. And they needed it. I did not think this was a great game for the offensive line in terms of run blocking. So they needed Gabriel to supplement that with his legs, and he did so very well. I will say his passing line is really kind of fool's gold. Like, it's not what you think it is. It is really sort of made – it looks a lot worse because of, I would say, about 6 or 7, like, absolute textbook drops, which you don't see a whole lot. But there were a handful of passes that should have been completed that were not his fault and that just clanged off of hands or faces or chests.
What do you think, Eric?
I didn't expect anything different. I mean, Dylan Gabriel's like 18th quarterback rating. I mean, we're acting like he's struggling or something. He's had a heck of a freshman year.
Right.
True freshman.
Hey, I'm the one out there banging the drum for Dylan Gabriel out there, and then I got whacked on Twitter because you know I'm pointing out how good UCF's offense has actually been this year.
Well, I mean, the offense is, it's fine. I mean, it's fine. But
It's more than fine.
Well, no, but they've had issues. You can't say they haven't had issues. We've addressed this on the show with red zone issues. That's cost them in games. I mean, it's not a perfect offense. I mean, I understand all sides of that. I don't think Dylan Gabriel's at the top of the list of the issues, put it to that way, if you are going to critique anything on the offensive side. Murph, so what's your takeaway now from the Tulane game now moving forward? Let's move forward to the Black Friday because let's be honest, nobody cares about Tulane. They're irrelevant football team. So let's move on to the Black Friday here.
Man, the shade getting thrown at Tulane by Eric Lopez. Goodness me.
It's a 6-5 team. I mean, so we're like, oh my goodness, Tulane. I mean, it's a good win. All right, this is the game that matters here. This is the game that anybody that went to school at UCF, this is the one you circle. This is the one you play. This is the last home game of the season. It's senior night. This is your rival. They're down. And I think, fans want to – I think this will really – a good performance this Friday night I think will leave a good taste in everybody's mouth here. Will that happen?
I mean, look, so you're asking me to predict what's going to happen in a football game. I believe that we have evidence that is not something I should do.
Don't answer that, Mr. 57 kicks in a row.
No one really should do that. I will say this. If you talk to the players this week, as I have, they are certainly up for this game. And we have talked about, the dangers of possibly overlooking a South Florida team that's not going into a bowl game. So this is their bowl game. And you can't overlook that. But they're saying, like, it doesn't matter what their record is. This is rivalry week. They're very cognizant of what this rivalry means. They also know that a win here would give them 3 consecutive seasons without a home loss. They also know that was it like 2015 when the last time maybe that South Florida won in this building, that they sort of rubbed it in a little bit. There was like a late score.
Thanksgiving night. Yeah, that was Thanksgiving night. We were winless. Yeah. There's nobody in the building, and they scored late. Yeah. They did that again in 2016 in Tampa, where they scored in the last few seconds. And
Scott Frost was not happy about that either, too. I remember that.
Right. So that was also happened in Tampa, where they scored late, and the excuse was given that, they put in the senior, hasn't played much. They want to give him one carry in his last home game, blah, blah, blah. So that
yeah, so Jake Brown remembers that, and he was talking about that this week about, if they have that sort of situation facing them, UCF might run up the score. Adrian Killen said today that, Tuesday, that USF is probably in for a rude awakening, which were his words, because this team is looking forward to playing back in front of their home fans for the first time in about 3 weeks, and they're eager to get out there. So I really don't think. I do not know what's going to happen, but I don't think if anybody's concerned about UCF overlooking this team or trying to figure out what the bowl scenarios are, or just just concentrating too much on senior day and not the game in hand. I honestly don't think that's an issue. Just judging off of what they have said, it's not the typical player coach speak stuff. There's a bit of fire here. There's a bit of an edge to their comments that sometimes it can be seen as inflammatory. And
I like it. I love it.
Anthony Roberson's come out and called them West Florida. He's basically you're basically
right. The the record.
He's technically right, but we all know what he's trying to say.
You know, the Argonauts would like a word about that, by the way.
Right, but so yeah, I don't. UCF is out here this week. They seem very confident. Maybe a little cocky, which is fine, and I think they're really ready for this.
Well, I mean, if you're cocky if you get punched in the mouth. If you deliver the punch, you're out for blood, right? The line is 23.5 right now, according to OddsShark. I don't even know if this is right. Consensus over-unders at 63, and 99% of the money is on the over. That's a little surprising. I don't know. We might be a little bit early on that.
UCF can score literally 56 on their own. All USF has to score is 8.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's. I'm still a little surprised at seeing 99% on the over. The all-time series is 6-4 in favor of the Bulls. And of course, they will never hesitate to bring that up. But there's a lot more going on with the USF program than at least probably might meet the eye. And this might be a big turning point for them as well. So we decided to have on, as we do on Rivalry Week, we'll bring on one of our contemporaries from the Daily Stampede, SB Nation's USF Bulls site. And this week we brought on Nathan Bond, the managing editor, who brought in a lot of insight into what's really going on over in Tampa. And I know you're going to want to hear this. So without further ado, as you're supposed to say in this case, here is our interview with Nathan Bond. All right, joining us now, the managing editor of our counterparts from the Daily Stampede, thedailystampede.com, covering USF Bulls sports on SB Nation. Okay, so it's not, first of all, everybody, it's not Colin Sherwin, okay? I tried to get Colin. No, I'm just kidding. If Colin is public enemy number 1, as I've always referred to him, this guy's probably public enemy number 3 or 4, I guess. Nathan Bond
I got to do better.
Nathan Bond from the Daily Stampede is on with us to talk about the war on I-4. What's going on, Nathan? How are you, bud?
I'm doing well. At least in Tampa, it just really doesn't feel like a rivalry week. We've got this, dark cloud hanging over us in the form of a $5 million buyout.
Okay. So we will get to that in a second. But I guess the first thing I got to ask you is, when it comes to USF football this season, what the hell happened?
Man, I was dead wrong. I was very high on the moves that they made in the offseason. They switched out half of their on-field staff, which included a coach who tried to fight a player during a game. I was very high on the Kerwin Bell offense and his philosophy, and just the injection of new blood into the coaching staff. And oh, buddy, was I wrong. I was so wrong. They just never clicked on offense. The offensive line has been horrendous the entire season. I think that might be the thing that gets Charlie fired here.
So, and that's the next part that we're thinking about. Is USF really ready to fire Charlie Strong and just start over again?
If they want to get this football facility built, they may have to pull the trigger. There's a lot of donors, a lot of fans that are just fed up with Charlie Strong. There's always the stat going around, without Teddy Bridgewater and Quentin Flowers, he's a sub 500 coach. So does he need a transcendent quarterback to mask his shortcomings? It's tough to say. I think he's a great, I want to say this, I think he's a great person. He's a great man. For some reason, he hasn't kicked my ass for the things that I've asked him over the last 2.5 years or so. I think a different guy probably would have beat me up by now, and I can assure you he would kick my ass. So I appreciate him not doing that, but it never seemed to click for him here without Quentin Flowers.
Go ahead, Brian.
I think the thing that sticks out to me, well, is two things. One is I've just been reading a lot about this team. How how banged up is this team right now? It seems like this team is nursing so many injuries to critical pieces. Nathan, what is the state of this team just health-wise?
How much time you have?
Yeah.
It's a podcast. It's unlimited.
So Blake Barnett started the year. He had the same ankle injury that Tua had a few weeks ago before he succumbed to that horrific, hip injury. He had surgery. He's out for the year. Your 2 senior running backs done for the year. Your starting slot receiver's been suspended for the last 6 weeks due to team violations. Your left tackle missed a game against Temple, and Temple sacked USF's quarterback Jordan McLeod 9 times. And then he got hurt again. 2 defensive tackles are hurt. I mean, it's a laundry list. There was a kicker that was hurt, and everyone was hurt. And I think that may contribute a little bit, but the poor play from some of the people who have been around the program a while kind of sank this ship before it even left the dock.
See, that's why I think it's kind of a little. It almost feels like it's a little. Look, watching from afar, it's a little unfair to tag that all on Charlie. I mean, he's not responsible for the injuries. He's not responsible for the turnover. Mm-hmm. He did what was asked of him in turning over the offensive staff, and then it's one of those seasons where everything kind of falls apart. I feel like instead of grading him an F, he should have gotten an I. Why don't the people around USF's program think that?
That can be a fair assessment, but just internally around the program and people I've spoken with, it just seems like, last year there's a lot of turmoil with that team. I mean, he kicked off 11 people right after the bowl game. As I said, a coach tried to fight a player, and it's really hard to kind of shake that. And it never fully materialized. The players seem to think that the locker room's better than last year. I had my reservations. You're heading toward another 0-4 November, and I don't think the players are that good compared to maybe 2 or 3 years ago. They don't have breakaway speed. The wide receivers can't get open, and I don't know, if you guys are Bucs fans or anything like that, but Charlie Williams is the wide receivers coach at USF, and if anybody knows the history of the Tampa Bay Bucs wide receivers in the mid-'90s, they're horrendous. Just who their position coach was. So there's a theme here. He brought Charlie Williams over from Texas. Justin Burke is the tight end special teams coach. People that he should have he replaced. The offensive coordinator and the O-line coach, but he didn't let Cohen bring in everyone he wanted. He still wanted to keep some of his guys, and I don't think it was the right fit. And it seems like all of the talented players are freshmen and redshirt freshmen who haven't been coached poorly yet.
Mm. And secondly, go ahead. Go ahead.
You wrote about it. You guys wrote about it on your site. That Charlie Strong should go. The question is, do they have the money to get rid of him and buy him out, or is it a situation where there's so much apathy in the program that you may not have a choice? You may have to find a way to get him out of here, because if you don't, that apathy will continue into next year and beyond.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. Do they have the money? Charlie Strong currently right now is the 14th highest paid coach in college football. He's making $5 million this year. And theoretically, that buyout, we'll never know, because as UCF media members know, the Board of Trustees is a DSO, so you can't FOIA any contracts. And former AD Mark Harlan made the secret contract with Charlie Strong that basically fully guarantees the entirety of his deal. So with 2 years left, there's around $5 million. I think it's like $5.3 million. It's up for debate how much of that's still fully guaranteed, or if it's like 80%, 90%. There's a large chunk of money that still needs to be accounted for. And if you fire Charlie, fire the entire staff and bring in a new staff, it could be somewhere around $10 million to start over. And that's going to be the huge question for Michael Kelly. He's fired a coach already, but it was for track and field. This is his first major decision that he's going to have to make. I think maybe it's a 60-40 split with the fans, maybe 70-30 split. Like if he doesn't pull the trigger, 70% of the people are going to be really upset, and then 30% are going to be like, all right, well, let's just ride it out and see what happens. He's got a huge decision, and I am so glad I'm not him.
I had just one other thing I want to ask. I think the thing that sticks out to me when just looking at the numbers is the rush defense. Nathan, is it as bad at 116 overall as the paper makes it look out to be?
The rush defense has been kind of hit or miss. I think Memphis rushed for over like 250 yards. When the defense is going, they're pretty good. They're the best unit that USF has this year for sure. I think Colin said it in our Slack channel. We had kind of our defense, your offense this year. We're a top 15 program. Just combining the two schools, I think that's pretty accurate. Staff defense has been fantastic. They're just a little small on the defensive line, and it kind of starts to show. And then you've got a couple injuries to defensive tackles, and then your depth's just not there. And that's been the kind of the theme through the Charlie Strong tenure. There's not that next man up. There's a guy that's there, but he's 40 pounds lighter and 2 inches shorter. There's not you can't plug and play another 6'3", 300-pound guy to kind of fill the role there.
Offensively, this team has had its struggles of its own, especially in the passing game, and the quarterback position has never at all been fully solidified after the departure of Quentin Flowers. I guess if USF plans to make this game a game on Friday, what are they going to have to do on offense in order to make that happen?
I sound like such a coach, but it starts up front. They've got to be able to protect the quarterback. Jordan McLeod. It could even be walk-on Kirk Rigel at this point. Who knows? Jordan's been nursing a thumb injury for the last 6 weeks. He got pulled, I think, in the middle of the third quarter last week against Memphis for a walk-on. And that's the thing that USF coaches were worried about this year. All right, well, if Blake goes down, you have one scholarship quarterback left. And now Jordan's banged up and hasn't been productive. Where do you turn to? And it kind of circles back to Sterling Gilbert running off two quarterbacks last year with Chris Oladokin and Brett Keene. Brett Keene's at Charlotte, who's now bowl eligible, and Chris Oladokin, I think, has thrown for 2,700 yards at Samford.
Mm-hmm.
There was talent in the quarterback room, and a lot of kids got ran off just because of how Charlie handled it, how Sterling Gilbert handled things, and this is kind of the byproduct of that. Got to be able to protect the quarterback, got to get the run game going. You only have Kelly Joyner and a couple walk-ons behind him. So, again, it just the injuries really mounted at the quarterback and running back position, and it's kind of snowballed from there.
Do you think this game will have any influence in Michael Kelly's decision on Charlie Strong either way?
I think so. If USF gets boat raced and it's not close, I think that post-game press conference with Charlie Strong may not happen. They may drive him to Orlando International Airport just to tarmac him, but it's a definite possibility. I would say it's definitely a non-zero chance, maybe up to 40% chance that he is fired directly after the game or 12 hours later if they get absolutely housed by UCF.
Wow. I mean, now let's play this forward a couple steps. Let's say that happens and Charlie Strong is let go after Thanksgiving weekend. I know that not everything's available right now, but in your mind of like realistic possible candidates, who would you like to see take over USF's program as the head coach?
I got killed on Twitter for this, but I think it's Terwin Bell. he's cheap relative to what USF would be able to afford post Charlie Strong buyout. We do film rooms every week, and we see that the concepts are there. The players just aren't executing the plays. I think against SMU, Jordan McLeod misses Eddie McDoom twice on deep post routes early in the game. That would have been just walk-in touchdowns. I guess with Wisconsin in the first quarter, a couple of huge drops in the first two drives, and it snowballs from there. It's the players are not making plays. You see Mitchell Wilcox should have like 50 or 60 catches just because he's been open damn near every time he's run a route this year. But quarterback's just not finding him, or the ball's high or behind him or low, or just they don't quite have the talent to overcome everything else surrounding them. They've really fallen back in that area, unfortunately, and it's going to get Charlie the axe. And I think Kerwin Bell, it'd be a tough sell for the fan base due to how poor the offense has been. But if you really look at the film, you kind of understand. Okay, you understand what he's trying to do. He's personable, and I think between UCF and USF, there's a lot of Gator fans that may be also UCF fans or USF fans. I know USF fans have a ton of supporters that are also UF fans, with the sidewalk fans or whatever they call it, sidewalk alumni.
Yeah.
And Kerwin Bell was the 1987 SEC Player of the Year for the Gators. That could help out selling Kerwin to the alumni base, the donors. I mean, he's been successful everywhere he's been. It's tough to only come in with 1 year, and I think he may have been sold a bill of goods that just wasn't up to par.
Well, I mean, he's got 12 years worth. This is what people forget, is that he's got 12 years of head coaching experience as a head coach. 9 at Jacksonville. He won 66 games, lost 35. That's pretty good, especially at a non-scholarship place like JU. And then 3 years at Valdosta State. And the last one, they won the Division II National Championship and won 14-0. So, I mean, it's no secret Kerwin Bell can coach. It's just, I think you're right. I think that it's a question of, will the fan base be willing to go along with it, and how does and I think that comes down to the other thing you were saying, which is that's going to be Michael Kelly's hardest job. Is if that's the case, how do you sell that to the fan base? And thinking about it from afar, I mean, I don't know about you, Eric and Brian, but that makes sense to me. I mean, it's it's also, I mean, we could also joke about his Orlando ties, being a former quarterback for the Orlando Thunder of the World League, but yeah, I mean, it's, I don't know. I think you're right. I am not envious of Michael Kelly's position either. Go ahead, Eric. I'm sorry.
Well, let me pull the elephant in the room. I mean, Willie Taggart. I mean, that was a fun time. He, had your best year, 2016. Looked like you were going to be set him up to be team to beat in the American. He left for Oregon for a year, and then we saw what happened at FSU. Any chance of a reunion there?
Willie Taggart can come back under 2 stipulations. He brings back Joe Kinnan, who was the mastermind of the Gulf Coast offense, and admit that Joe Kinnan was the mastermind of the Gulf Coast offense. And he brings back TJ Weist, who is now the special teams coach for the Baltimore Ravens. I will maintain to the day I die that TJ Weist and Joe Kinnan are more responsible for the Gulf Coast offense and the success of the USF, 2015 to 2016 seasons. They set the foundation for the play calling. Willie kind of took it from there. For some reason, Willie didn't want to take Joe Kinnan with him to Oregon, and I think that relationship soured. So, hat in hand, apologize to Joe, maybe. But TJ Weist is now with the Ravens, and you're seeing what Lamar Jackson is doing, and I will steadily maintain that TJ Weist had something to do with it. He was an offensive analyst last year for the Ravens before taking over as special teams coach. So I fully maintain that Lamar Jackson's success is partly due to TJ Weist.
another guy who's, 1 year there, and look at what happened. And now we're seeing that right now. Boy, and we were watching that game last night on Monday night, man, against the Rams in L.A., and my God, that offense, that was impressive. Well, nonetheless, Friday's coming around the corner. Last question for you here, unless Brian and Eric, you guys have anything to add. I guess your outlook for Friday. What do you think is going to happen? It's, and I know what you hope is going to happen, but what do you think is really going to happen?
Pain, a lot of pain. I don't think this team, after losing to Cincinnati the way they did, I just don't think they had the juice to get up for another big game and kind of carry it through. You saw it in the first half against Cincinnati going up 10-0 and then fell apart in the second half. Against Memphis, they were up 10-7 after the first quarter and it fell apart. I don't see this team putting together a full 4 quarters at all. Unfortunately, it may be competitive for a quarter, maybe a quarter and a half. But I see Dylan Gabriel and Adrian Killens and Otis Anderson and Gabe Davis just running roughshod all over this team. Unfortunately, I don't see a win. But honestly, in the near future, regardless, Charlie's here or not, the program has just fallen so far behind, unfortunately, and I think that's the harsh truth that we need to deal with. You guys may have sold your souls a little bit to be successful, but it's working right now. And USF has fallen so far behind. I don't know how and if they will catch up.
Well,
more so.
Oh, go ahead,
more
Brian.
So than just. This is actually more so than just the result. If you were to, put some money on this, what about -24? Do you think, if you were UCF, that you would give 24 points?
I would think about taking USF at +32. Up until that point, I think UCF just murder smurfs them, as the guys at PA Pen like to say with Boise State. I think it's gonna be a bloodbath, honestly. It's not gonna be fun. We almost decided as a site to go to Epcot instead of go to the game and live tweet us drinking around the world instead of covering the game. Like, it was seriously discussed as counter programming. We just couldn't make the schedules work with Thanksgiving and everything like that. But it was, if everyone was in town, that was definitely on the table.
Well, you guys know us in particular, and we take a lot of crap from UCF fans about this, but I really don't care. I know you guys too, Brian and Eric, we believe that college football in the state of Florida and in the American is better when these two schools are good. And we saw what happened 2 years ago when that was the case in 2017. As heartbreaking as it was for you guys, it was thrilling for us. And but that game was basically a coin flip. And I think that game not only really launched UCF into the national consciousness prior to the Peach Bowl against Auburn, but also launched the war on I-4 rivalry into the national consciousness as a game that's worth watching, even if you don't have a hand with either team. And I think that part of the echo, I think that the echo of that is part of the reason why this game is on ESPN in prime time on Friday night. Usually people are like, Friday night's kind of a dead time for television, but not on Thanksgiving weekend, and especially for football. So, obviously as fans, I personally am hoping it's not as entertaining as that game is. I don't know if I can handle that again, but like I said, it's tough times for South Florida. It's a big moment for their program, and I think that the rivalry is always better when both teams are good, and I think we can look to other sports to see that. So, all right, well, nonetheless, you guys will be covering the game. Nathan, for those UCF fans who want to hate follow you, how can they do so?
You can follow me at Bulls Nathan SBN. You can follow the house account at Stampede SBN. Warning. If you come at us sideways on the house account, you will probably get blocked and/or muted.
I think like half of us have been blocked, like for some
absolutely.
reason. I was like, and I reached out to you and Colin. I was,
Murph, because Nate Murph created controversy on our preseason basketball special. This was before the injury, obviously, but he went to South Florida as the second best team in the American.
Yeah, the day before Alexis Yetna got hurt.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, man, that was tough. They still need to figure that out. We'll need to come back on and talk some basketball when the men play, because I think it's going to be a little bit more competitive this year when you don't have a 7'6" guy clogging up the paint. Hopefully USF figures out how to play without Yetna. And then for the women, y'all are going to see what happens when you run trash zone against a good team.
You trash zone. Go give me that crap, Nathan. All right, Nathan Bond from Daily Stampede. Well, listen, I know it's a rough year, but we've had our share of rough years, and
that's why we went easy on you.
That's why we went easy on you. Exactly. So, nonetheless, hey, listen, have a happy Thanksgiving. If you're traveling, be safe, and we'll talk to you again come basketball season. All right.
All right, sounds good. I appreciate you guys. Have a good one.
All right, thanks again to Nathan for his insight. Man, I mean, like, Nathan seems, you can kind of hear like how completely downtrodden he is about what's gone on this year over there. I'm still surprised at how this has kind of gone down, and it seems like it's a lot worse than even the record indicates, though, and we might see that in spades here on Friday, guys. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so too. I think this UCF team is motivated for a number of reasons to sort of put it on USF. I am wary of that line because of the history with recent history with UCF and spreads. But if there is a game where I felt somewhat comfortable about giving away 3.5 scores, this might be it.
Eric?
Well, the problem is South Florida, as Nate mentioned, usually competes well early. They compete well early in the game and then kind of falter. Whereas UCF, at least at home, Murph, gets off to quick starts. The crew that's doing this game is the same crew that did the UConn game. I think this is a UConn game. I really do. I think these seniors are fired up for reasons you have said. I was there on the sideline in Tampa. There was a lot of ticked off people. And listen, I mean, there's still a lot of fans that were in the stadium at Raymond James in 2007 when Levin and South Florida just destroyed UCF. I think it was like 62-14, some ridiculous.
64-12.
64-12 was a miserable day, and I know UCF fans are kind of hoping to put up a score like that, whether you like it or not. But that's kind of the bad take. The problem, last year, unfortunately, nobody could enjoy the game for what obviously happened with Mackenzie Milton in that situation. That was unfortunate. But I think that's the other thing, because no one was really able to enjoy that victory. I mean, you enjoyed it briefly if you were the players, but then you were worried about Mackenzie. This time around, I think you're like, let's just go have fun, and especially for your seniors, knowing that this is your last game, what a better way to go out with a defining and a nice statement win on a war in I-4.
Yeah, and the bowl game after that. So kickoff is set for 8 p.m. on ESPN. And Eric, do we know the crew for that game, by the way?
Yeah, it's Roy Philpott, Kelly Stauffer, and Lauren Sizzler. They did the UConn game earlier this year, so that's good karma there.
I am a Kelly Stauffer fan, by the way. I do want to put that out there, and just I like Kelly. I think he's a good analyst. So, and then of course Mark Daniels, Gary Parrish, Scott Adams, Lizzie Duzable on 740. Go ahead.
One other reason for motivation: it's the return of the stash.
Yeah, Jeff.
That's right.
Jeff, you listed the wrong broadcast crew for UCF.
Yes.
Hey, wait a minute. No, I read off the game notes. That's right.
Scott. Did you say Scott Adams?
It says Scott Adams on the sideline. It says I guess they didn't update it. So Jerry O'Neal is making his long anticipated return to the UCF sideline. He's literally been
right.
spending all year preparing for this game, I'm sure. So.
One time only. This is why you save him for games like this.
That's right.
That's why you bring him in there. Because probably Scotty will be with men's basketball in Anaheim.
That's right.
That'll be fun.
So, all right. So let's go ahead and take a quick break here when we come.
You do realize that you better get coffee early because Jerry will take it. You got competition, buddy.
They're just going to bring one of those big giant metal things. Just bring it down to the sideline for him. I mean, just give Jerry his own coffee
produced
machine.
Shows for 7-8 years. That guy knows how to drink coffee. You better be careful there. You better not hesitate, or it could be all gone.
It's the game within the game.
Yeah.
Yes. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we're going to talk volleyball. Todd Dagenais of the American Athletic Conference champion UCF Knights volleyball team will join us, and we'll also talk about men's soccer breaking through to the Sweet 16. Stick around. I'll be right back.
Today's episode is brought to you by Cars.com. With over 2 million vehicles and 50,000 more added every day, Cars.com will match you with the perfect car for you, your budget, your life, your style. And if you're ready to say goodbye to your current car, Cars.com will get you an instant offer to cash it in. Just start by entering your license plate and get matched with a local dealer who will write you the check. So whether you're looking to buy or sell, just go to Cars.com. It's magical.
Welcome back to the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Jeff Sharon, Eric Lopez, and Brian Murphy with you here. All right, time for Brian Murphy's favorite part of the program, where we discuss what's gone on in the non-football sports. And no, it really is, though. And a big weekend for two teams in particular, UCF Volleyball and UCF Men's Soccer. First, we start with the volleyball team, who repeated as American Athletic Conference champions. They had to win 3 matches in 3 days to do it. They did not have the bye in the American tournament, the first ever American volleyball tournament. Remember, they always had the regular season champ get the bid. Well, now they have the tournament, but it was a 6-team tournament. Top 2 seeds get the byes, and they split it up into divisions. So the teams that got the byes were Cincinnati and SMU. So UCF had to play in the first round despite having an identical conference record to Cincinnati. If you put them all into one spot, they would have been second. But so UCF defeated Tulsa in their first match, and it was a little weird because of a quirky third set. But UCF got the job done. They take care of business against SMU with a sweep on Saturday in the semis, and that set up the big match against Cincinnati, where it was a this match was just a street fight between two teams. Remember, UCF has lost the 2 regular season meetings to Cincinnati, but credit to the coaching staff, Coach Dagenais, as well, who we'll hear from in just a moment, as well as Jenny Maurer and Brian Doyen. And volunteer assistant Cam Stevens and TJ Reed, also, who does the video work as the DO. They figured out how to slow down Jordan Thompson at least in a way that would give UCF a shot. They lost the first set, came back, really took it to Cincinnati in the second, and then the third was huge. Here's what happened. Cincinnati had not match point, but set point at 24-18. They had a 6-point lead. And at that moment, UCF ripped off 8 points in a row, all facing set point until obviously the end. But stole that set 26-24, and the venue it almost blew the top off the venue. Cincinnati came back in another tight set in the fourth, won at 26-24, and then went to the fifth. It was tied at 8, and then UCF ripped off 5 straight points. It looked like Cincinnati was just kind of running out of gas at that point, and Narissa Moravec got the final kill to wrap it up, and UCF won the fifth 15-10, and the celebration was on. It was... in fact, I have sound of that right here.
right at the net, and it's done! UCF, the AAC Tournament champions!
It's all celebration here for Central Florida. The basketball team joins them on the court. Great job, great fight by both of these teams.
So that was the call from Tiffany Green, former Central Florida News 13 reporter, doing play-by-play for on ESPNU. So UCF wins the conference championship 2 years in a row, third under Dagenais. And the Knights are going to hang another banner. And now they await Selection Sunday on the Sunday after Thanksgiving. Their RPI is 22. And we'll see what happens. And you guys, Eric and Brian, I don't know if you guys caught that match, but based on what you saw, what was your reaction to how all that went down? Eric, I'll start with you.
Well, I'll speak for Murph first. He was busy at a New Orleans, South Carolina.
Oh, that's right, Murphy. You were at the
I do have a story about this, but you go first. Eric.
Okay, go for it.
Wow. Okay, I'm looking forward to it. I was at the match. I was working stats for ESPNU on that match, so I was courtside. My quick thoughts: it's the best volleyball match that's been ever played in that venue. Jordan Thompson was phenomenal. If you want to say they slowed her down, okay. 38 kills, 20 digs.
Insofar as 38 kills is slowing her down, but Todd Dagenais talked a little bit about this. But go ahead.
And by the way, Maria Mallin's really good. She's like the Scottie Pippen of Cincinnati.
She is.
Yeah. 19 kills. Look, these are two evenly matched teams. They're two teams that, with the right draw, can go to the Sweet 16, and they have built this rivalry for the last few years with many storylines. And you have it going to that third set. It looks like UCF's going to lose the set, go down 2-1, and you're thinking to yourself, maybe it's just not meant to be for them to beat Cincinnati this year. And then they make that magical run, and they win it. The crowd goes berserk, as you could tell. And I think that changed the whole complexion of the match. Cincinnati, give them credit for even winning the fourth set. Jordan Thompson made sure they weren't going to lose in four. I think she had 10 kills in that fourth set. Mm-hmm. But McKenna Melville, I think this was a passing of the torch. This was Jordan Thompson's last match of the American Conference. She's been the best player in the league by far. And I think she passed the torch to McKenna Melville, who I think is the best player now in the American Conference moving forward. If she continues her track, I think will become the best UCF volleyball player of all time. She was phenomenal because I think she helped stay with Jordan Thompson. It's hard to stay with her, with trying to match her in kills, but McKenna did that. And as a result, I think it gave her teammates confidence that, hey, McKenna's doing her part to help us out with Jordan. Let's contribute and make this tough on Thompson. Was a phenomenal match. Huge win. Significant win. I think one of the most significant wins for Coach Dagenais in his career for a couple of reasons. It was a nationally televised match at the venue on ESPNU, which I don't think they've ever been on ESPNU at home. I know they've been on the Longhorn Network when they played in Texas and things like that. But to win that match at home in the inaugural American Conference Championship, that's a where are you now moment. Like, where were you when, plays like that happen? Where were you in the third set when UCF came back 24-18? That's the kind of play that people will remember that were at the building.
McKenna Melville finished with 27 kills, 59 for the weekend, by the way. And I wanted to give a shout out to the upfront people for UCF because they were really outstanding. Lachey Harper had 12 blocks. Anne-Marie Watson had 9. Melville had 4, including a big one in that third set rally. And I spoke to Anne-Marie Watson right after the match, and I said, "Can I see your hands?" And her hands were her fingers were all taped up, and they were. She looked like she had been working in concrete. Her hands were bruised and pale. And I was like, "You all right?" She's like, "Yeah, I'm fine." And I guess what I was trying to say about that was that Jordan Thompson got 38 kills, but the key was, in order for UCF to score points themselves, was they had to, the blockers had to get their hands on her swings, and they were able to do that. She's going to get hers eventually, but what do you do in order to get into transition? And I think that's what UCF did. And also, Cincinnati had something like 32 attack errors to UCF's 10. 16 blocks.
A lot in that fifth set. In the fifth set. You can tell Cincinnati was kind of worn out. Even Jordan just kind of left it all on the court. Unbelievable player. This is kind of like, Brian, this is similar to a Duke UCF type of game, except the good guys won this one.
The good guys won.
In that this game will continue to grow because Jordan Thompson, if she's not on the U.S. Olympian team, then clearly we're not being run by right people, and we probably won't medal next year in Tokyo. She should be representing the red, white, and blue. And as I told one of the assistants afterwards, hey, we can root for her now.
Right.
I mean, I think she's going to be in the U.S. team. She's going to be playing professionally. And I think she won't be the only one from this game that will play professionally moving forward. I think there's a lot of talent. And again, I don't know if we'll get into it on this episode. If it's a shame that the committee will not seed this correctly, they're going to seed this by region. Otherwise, I think if you gave these two teams a good, a fair draw, they're Sweet 16 caliber there. All right, Murph, you've teased us. What? You had a story while you were in New Orleans about this volleyball match. I can't wait to hear this.
I did. So, yes, I was at the Saints-Panthers game on Sunday, and around the 5-minute mark, you have to go downstairs and stand in the media holding area, basically behind the field, and watch the game from behind the field on TV monitors. So there I am. It's a crazy game, kind of back and forth late. I'm standing next to people from, the Saints and the Panthers writers and New York and NFL Network, and Eric DeSalvo, UCF's chief content executive manager.
Hashtag content.
It's hashtag content all day. Walks up to me because he was obviously there for Traquan and Latavius Murray, as was I. Walks up to me and he goes and so we're watching this game. And there's a missed field goal that could have won the game that goes down. People were freaking out, but we're too busy to notice that happening because Eric has turned on the volleyball game on his phone, and we watched the last 5 or 6 points of this game while the Saints and Panthers were trying to figure out who was going to win their game. We watched UCF become conference champions from basically the bowels of the Louisiana Superdome. This
is the long reach of UCF volleyball at work right there. No, who cares about the Saints and the Panthers? Nobody would care about UCF volleyball right here. And by the way, another key stat for you, Eric Lopez, from that match: blocks. UCF had 16 and Cincinnati had 2. That was a huge number, and was a major contributing factor to UCF.
Hey, Coach Molly told the TV crew that UCF's the best blocking team in the league.
Yeah, I mean they are 7th in the country in blocks as a team, which
they're tremendous.
That tells you a lot about what they're able to do. All right, a little bit earlier today, we're recording this on Tuesday. A little bit earlier today, we had I spoke to Todd Dagenais about the victory, what went into it, how it happened, and also what he's looking forward to with the NCAA tournament. So here is my interview with head UCF volleyball coach Todd Dagenais. All right, joining me now, the head coach of the now 2-time defending American Athletic Conference volleyball champion UCF Knights. And you knew I was going to break this out here, Todd. And I guess we could say now the co-winningest head coach in school history in volleyball, Todd Dagenais, joining us here on the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Are you still coming down from the high from the tournament, Todd?
Yeah, it was pretty surreal. It was quite the finish to a weekend, and I don't know that everything is completely hit yet. We're already in the mode of getting ready for what's next. So it was a pretty exciting weekend, though.
It was, not just exciting. You guys had to do it the hard way, winning 3 matches in a row, and then on top of that, I think pretty much everybody outside thought that the final was between the 2 best teams in the conference. Due respect to everybody else who was there, especially SMU, who got the bye. But you guys rolled through Tulsa, you rolled through SMU, and then got to Cincinnati. The match itself, and you alluded to this in the postgame, was just a fight between 2 teams that are already so familiar with each other. When you look back on that 5-setter, what do you think was the real turning point in that match that gave your team the confidence to take it in 5?
I think, being down 24 to 18 or 19, in that third set. And, scoring a point, scoring another point, you score the next point, and now it's like, hey, if we get really lucky, we might be able to pull this one off. They call a timeout, and I thought McKenna just absolutely stuff blocked their middle hitter running a slide. And that middle hitter had been doing some damage to us. We hadn't been able to stop her very well. And I think when McKenna stuff blocked her and the excitement and the energy and the atmosphere in the gym, and I think everything changed. And all of a sudden, the pressure was now on Cincinnati to have to execute. And I thought once we got to that 24-21 and Cincinnati had to execute, I thought that, they got under a little bit of pressure, and we just continued to do our job of executing. So I think, scoring those first few points, that happens. Sometimes you get a little 2-3 point run, even when the other team's at game point. But then that emphatic stuff block, all of a sudden it kind of lit us up. And from there, I thought we made plays. I thought they made mistakes. I thought we caused them to make mistakes. And then finishing that one off 26-24. That was a really big deal. You don't want to be down 2-1 to those guys.
Yeah, I mean, we know how good Jordan Thompson is and how good everybody around her is as well. I think that if anybody has any doubts about how good this conference is from a volleyball perspective, particularly at the top with Cincinnati and you guys, of course, they won the regular season. Yeah, I mean, I feel like they would need their head examined. The conference, especially the top of the league right now, right?
I don't know that everybody realizes how good Jordan Thompson is because they've never seen anything like that in our gym, with the exception of way back my very first year when we had Stanford here, and they had 4 first-team All-Americans, 3 of which went on to be Olympians. That's who was in our gym, and so for a lot of the fans that haven't been with us from the beginning, they've never seen anything like that before. And I mean, we haven't seen anything like that for, 4 or 5 years. There wasn't even anybody on USC's team or any other team that we played that were like her. I mean, she's a player like that is a once in a decade player, NCAA wise. And it's really hard. It's really hard to describe what kind of player she is when there's only one of her that comes along every decade. That's how good she is.
Yeah. So you guys have now won the conference 2 times in a row. Last year, there was no tournament. It was only the regular season. This year, you have the crescendo of the tournament. But if you can, I know this is almost like asking you like which one of your kids is your favorite, but compare the last year's team to this year's team and the journey that this year's team has gone on. How is it different from your perspective leading the squad?
Well, I think you look at last year's team and we were playing so many freshmen, and for that group to go on and excel and win a championship is such a rarity. The one piece that held that whole thing together was Jordan Pingle, the libero. And then we just had a bunch of freshmen really that didn't know any better, that were ultra competitive, that were they only know winning. That's all they've done their whole life. And they just went out and played. And all of those 5-game matches that we won, we caught every break in the world last year. This year's different. Now we're a year older. Now the target's on our back. We're picked to win the conference, which I think was absolute stupidity, because Cincinnati comes back. They have their team, their experience, plus they have quite possibly the National Player of the Year on their roster. And that they're going to set her 60, 80, or 100 balls, depending if it's a 3, 4, or 5-game match. And, this team early on had that leadership void left behind by Jordan. And I thought that everybody over the course of time kind of fell into their own leadership role, and first of all, they would lead themselves, and then they would lead a small group of people. But I think overall, in terms of just having one solid leader, directing this is the way it's going to be, I didn't have that. That was not something that really was who we were. Now, we had all the talent in the world. we plugged Jordan Pingle's spot with Mackenzie Kuchmaner. And so at least physically we could go out and prepare. But so much of this game is between the ears and off the court. And I think we got better as everybody accepted their role. Leaders got comfortable within their role. Skill set got better. Systems got better. We got better. And then the confidence came along with it.
You and I, we every time we talk a little bit about the RPI all the time. And I don't know if you've seen, well, I'm sure you probably have seen the most recent one, but you guys are at 22 right now in the RPI. Cincinnati's at 21. Obviously, you have the automatic berth, so it kind of doesn't matter. But based on what you see on the national landscape, what are you anticipating come Selection Sunday on not this coming Sunday after Thanksgiving?
Well, being an Olympic sports, the NCAA really does govern it by ability to save money. And I think that what will happen is they'll seed the top 16 teams. Florida will probably be seeded somewhere between 6 and 10. And now you go to the criteria of least number of flights possible. So we're pretty close to Gainesville. Florida State's pretty close to Gainesville. So I'm sure the two of us will end up in Gainesville. And then they'll bring in a fourth team, maybe Kennesaw, or maybe, some sort of a Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina team to be the fourth team. That would be my guess on what they're going to do. There's going to be 4 Texas seeds more than likely. I think A&M, Texas, Rice, and Baylor are all going to host. So I think all the Texas schools plus a lot of the middle of the country teams are going to end up in Texas. So I think it pretty much sets itself up for us heading up to Gainesville and quite likely having to play Florida State first. And then if we're able to get by, we'll play the winner of Florida and whoever ends up being the fourth team up there. That's kind of what I see. But, the committee's thrown curveballs many times before, and you never really know. So it's not like we're going out and we're starting the process of scouting who we think our next opponent's going to be.
As long as they don't ship you out to Seattle, I think we'll be okay, or Hawaii for that matter. that would be one hell of a road trip.
Those would not be good landing spots the first time.
You guys have about a week and a half, in between now and then. So as a coaching staff, you and Jenny Maurer and Brian Doyne and everybody, what do you guys work on before you know your actual opponent in terms of just preparation with all of this off time?
Well, we just got done playing 3 days of hell, and all the prep time, all the rest, not the rest, the preparation, the video, very little rest. It takes a toll on the mind and the body. So they had yesterday off, practice today, but today's practice is not going to be a lot. It's just going to be working on some of the things that we feel like we want to get better at, some of the out-of-system hitting, connections with our middles and right sides so we can run fast when we control the ball well. And so we're going to just work on those things today, but tomorrow we're going to give them off so they can get a Thanksgiving. A lot of them are going home for Thanksgiving. They'll come back on Saturday night. On Sunday, we'll get together for the show. And then on Monday, we'll know who we're playing. So we'll start working probably half on us, half on the opponents. Tuesday, we'll start transitioning a little bit more to the opponents. And Wednesday, we're completely locked in on who we're playing.
Gotcha. So Sunday's the selection show. It's going to be at Burger U. I know you're going to be there, and you're anticipating quite a few Knight fans are going to be there too.
Boy, I hope so. I think it'd be a great opportunity for fans to come out and meet the team, get autographs. I'm sure we'll do some sort of presentation of some sort. Then the show will be on, answer questions, meet and greet fans, and then the coaching staff will leave and get to work right away.
Yeah, it's going to be. There's going to be quite a bit of anticipation. I know it's a little bit different than last year because obviously you guys were in a position where you could host. Obviously, it's not quite there this year, but still, it should be interesting to see where you guys land, especially after that tremendous win over Cincinnati, and going back to one of the other things that you mentioned, you were talking about how your middles and outsides were working, and obviously worked so hard. I remember I saw Anne-Marie Watson right after the match, and I looked at her hands, and they were all taped up, and they were like pale and black and blue, and I'm like, "You all right?" And she's like, "Yeah, fine."
She took some violent shots off of her fingers, but a lot of those shots that she took off her fingers took a ball that was being hit 60 miles an hour and slowed it down to 20 so somebody could pick it up and we could transition out of it. She did an exceptional job of lining up, of being up high with a player who plays, as high as some NBA players. And, she did just a great job. And yeah, her fingers took a beating. I want to say she probably sprained maybe 3, 4, maybe more fingers during that match. You'd never know it. She'd never talk about it, but that's what happens in our game. You get against a player like that, it hits that hard, you're going to come out of that match with injuries. And like a prize fighter, she hung in there and just took it. And every single ball that hit one of those fingers, she probably had 2 that were almost ripped off just in the first set alone. And, like a prize fighter, she just hung in there and took it and fought.
Yeah, and she wasn't the only one, too. I thought that Narissa Moravec played an excellent match. Lachey Harper was fantastic on the front as well for you, and they were really the key, weren't they, in terms of doing exactly what you said, just trying to slow things down a little bit and get good swings off of facing down someone like not just Jordan Thompson, but also Maria Mallon.
Cincinnati is so tough in that. Well, just in the last match alone, Cincinnati took 145 swings and 128 with the 2 outside hitters. So only less than 20 sets went to everybody else the entire match. But they still find a way to set those players in ways that, you have to respect them. You can't just leave and go to the 2 outside hitters. And so we knew that's what they were going to bring to us. They were going to set 90% of the balls to the 2 outside hitters, but they were going to utilize their other players to really keep you honest. And that's a great plan when you have a team like that. For us, we don't have that luxury. Sure, we have 2 great outside hitters in Tina Fisher and McKenna Miller, but we're not going to win elite. Like a third round of 32 type match, and that's what that was. We're not going to win a round of 32 match with 2 players. We're never going to be that way. We have got to be a 5, 6, 7 player team to be able to outrun a team like Cincinnati, and that's exactly what happened. Everybody did their job. The 2 outsides went up and they got their kills. Anne-Marie got her kills and she blocked Jordan. Allie kept Maria Mallon, their other dynamic left side, in check. Now, Allie didn't have a ton of kills, but every single kill that she had was important. The middles were active in blocking, and we got them in transition just enough to hold their middles to allow both of the outsides to score. So we executed at such a high level. We executed our game plan at such a high level. We've been waiting all year to play a match like that where we were executing at that kind of a level, where everybody played their role and did their job. And you can't ask for a better day or a better time to put that match on the floor.
Boy, you're not kidding. 24-7 overall, 14-2 in the league, and the conference champions for the second straight year. Head Coach Todd Dagenais of UCF Volleyball. Congrats again, man. It's always good to. It was a blast of a weekend to be witness to, and I know how much this meant to you, and how much it meant to the players and the staff, and man, what a thrill. Thank you so much for allowing us to be witness to that. And listen, enjoy the Thanksgiving holiday, and I'll see you on Selection Sunday, all right?
You as well, and we'll look forward to seeing you then. Thanks a lot for all the help and support, Jeff.
All right, thanks again to Todd. was really I've known Todd since his first year at UCF, and really, really satisfying, and so happy for him to get this victory. And I know that we joke around all the time about how much he doesn't like conference tournaments, but to see that moment for them, he had tears in his eyes on the floor afterwards. I mean, that was, as somebody who's known him for that long, that was just an amazing moment. I'm glad that he got to experience it. I'm glad all the UCF fans that were there got to experience it too, because the venue was packed and it was loud, and it came through on TV how wild that place can get when it's hot, when the gym is hot, as they like to say. So thanks again to Todd. So UCF awaits for their selection on Sunday. They will have a selection show party at Burger U. And I'm trying to pull it up. Let's see, NCAA volleyball selection show.
8:30 on ESPN.
8:30 p.m. on ESPN. Okay.
Sam Gore will be the host. He'll announce Florida
Gotcha.
Gators hosting the UCF Knights, the Florida State Seminoles, and the Kennesaw State probably.
That's
your 14.
That's exactly what we think. Unless the committee does something really kooky, which Eric, you and I know all about these committees. I never rule it out. So
no, they're not gonna. It's just Florida's gonna be a national seed, and I think they're just gonna bust UCF, Florida State. It's very predictable. It's unfortunate, but I think that's where it's going. The only reason it's not Florida Gulf Coast, for those that are wondering, they got upset by Kennesaw State.
Right.
So despite the fact I think they won like 27 matches, but their RPI is like 65, so they're not going to get in on that. But still,
their RPI was so good at the start of the year too, and when they got to ASUN play, it just tanked.
But I do think this, and I know Coach Dagenais disagrees with this, but I got a sense that the players like the tournament, and I got a sense that the players feel like this will help them in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, well, fortunately, they get a lot of rest between now and then with the Thanksgiving holiday coming up, and they will play likely Thursday or Friday. So, by the way, speaking of committees that screw things up, let's talk about men's soccer here for a little bit, and some more history taking place at UCF in their NCAA second round game against previously undefeated Missouri State. It was tied at 1 and in overtime. And then, who is this masked man on the microphone? Oh, yeah, it's our very own Eric Lopez. Take a listen to what happened.
And now Vivi, can he get to the ball? He does. Vivi, cross, and a go! And a go! And a go! As sweet as a go as it gets. And the UCF Knights, for the first time in program history, advances to the round of 16 as they win it in overtime. 2-1 the final. A golden moment for this Knights program, and it comes in overtime, and the Knights are victorious 2-1.
So there it is. The 9 seed UCF Knights get the 2-1 victory over, like we said, previously unbeaten Missouri State. They were 18-0-1 coming into that game, and Cal Jennings is the hero once again. And so what does UCF men's soccer get to do? They get to go to Dallas to face SMU one more time, the 8 and the 9. SMU needed an overtime goal to beat Coastal Carolina in their second round game, Eric. So you watched this game. It was high drama, just as you would expect. Same day as the volleyball match, happened right after. What a doubleheader, by the way, on Sunday, huh?
Yeah, Murph, make a note. I feel like at the end of the year in the Bannies, me and Jeff are going to argue about this day and which game was better. So make a note. Be available. You're going to be the special guest referee, just so you know.
Eric, give me your thoughts on this on that game, and because you were there, you called it from beginning to end, and UCF goes to the Sweet 16 for the first time ever.
It's an iconic moment in the history of this program. There's no other way of saying it. They have never been to the round of 16. And then they've had heartbreak many times this close to getting to the Sweet 16. They lost last year in overtime at home to Lipscomb in overtime. They lost to South Florida back in 2011 in overtime in Tampa. They lost to Michigan in overtime back in 2010. This program has always knocked on the door and just can never get through. And then, so as this match develops, early in the match, Yannick Girdle has been a phenomenal goalkeeper for the Knights. Literally just misplays a ball, and hands it over to the Missouri State Bears team, who just gets an easy goal, and you're thinking, oh my goodness, is it just not meant to be? Is this team just snake bitten? But then Yoni Sorokin gets a goal header, his fifth goal of the year. 3 of them have been headers, and ties it up at 1 to go to halftime. Then UCF has a penalty kick opportunity. Luis Perez shoots high, missed it. They dominate the second half, but can't score. And you're thinking, oh my goodness, here it is. Is history about to repeat itself? Are they about to lose again in overtime? And then like 40, and I think I had just finished on the broadcast saying, look, this is it could go to 2 to 10-minute periods, and if it doesn't end there with a golden goal, it will go to penalty kicks. And 43 seconds in, Yannick Girdle with a deep pass to Gino Vivi, who caught it. And we're broadcasting. We're obstructed towards that side of the pitch where Vivi and Cal Jennings are. I can't see too much of that field, so a lot of times I have to move my head or depend on other people to see what's going on, or depending on the spot. And Vivi makes this incredible pass into the box, and the next thing I see, the ball's in the net, and Cal's around it. I'm like, how did that get through? And just that scene with Cal Jennings and the team celebrating with the fans there near the pitch, and just the excitement and the joy from another great crowd. Just a historic moment, and just an amazing night. The first time ever this program has gotten to the Sweet 16, and it was fitting that it took a golden goal, because this team has lived off the golden goal. They're now 7-0-2 in the golden goal in overtime this year. They've scored 7 golden goals. That's been this team. Just phenomenal. And after the match, I had a chance to talk to Cal, among other media people here, to talk to Cal about what will go down as one of maybe the most memorable goal in UCF soccer history.
Yeah, I mean, it was an exciting play. We were confident going into overtime. We're getting a lot of chances, and knew we just had to continue to keep our foot on the pedal. The ball got through to Gino, and my eyes kind of lit up. I figured that was the moment, ran in hard, and he served a great ball in.
It happened way too fast. So Gino sent the ball in, bad clearance, and you just put it away?
No, Gino took a second, so he took a touch, sent the ball in, and then it was first time to my right foot, inside the right foot, and winning.
That moment, the ball goes in the net. You've won, advanced here. What goes through your mind? I mean, that's just, in a lot of ways, this is what soccer players dream of.
Yeah, honestly, a little bit of relief. I knew like I said, we were all over him. Created a bunch of chances, and it wasn't going kind of similar to last year. But I was confident that we were going to get a goal. And it happened, and it was. I had relief, but it was also just so much excitement for the team, for Gino, for all of us. We're surviving and advancing. That's the plan.
That was Cal Jennings, and typical Cal, very cool. Hey, no big deal. But the difficulty of that play execution is just phenomenal, and for excellent execution, what a way to end it. Just an unbelievable finish, historic. And now they get a chance at SMU. But this is a program that's been to the NCAA Tournament 7 times. They've been to D1 soccer since '84. And you know this, Jeff. You've been here a long time. Murph, you too. There was whispers outside of the program. People were wondering, should we have a men's soccer program, right? There were people like, why do we have a men's soccer program? Why not have another sport instead? Is it worth having a men's soccer program? We have a great dominant women's soccer program. There was always that chatter in the background, whispers. And here's Scott Calabrese coming over, not fazed by any of it. I had a chance, obviously, with the rest of the media, talk to Scott Calabrese afterwards on what does it feel to reach the Sweet 16 with this program, and why did he believe that this program was capable of big things?
The team was so good tonight, and the opponent, Missouri State, they hadn't lost a game all season. They are such a tough team, and I was so proud of the way our guys were able, after a setback to begin the game, to take control, to be brave still, to be themselves. I felt we created so many good chances in that game. But anytime you play in a big match like this, they're always going to be tight. And so, such credit to our guys to just fight and battle. And again, here we are in overtime and winning in overtime. It's an amazing feeling.
What'd you tell the guys heading into OT?
Well, I said we've been here before, and that we thought that the wide areas of the field started to open up a little bit, and they were closing more of the middle down, and so we thought we could get the ball into that wide area, and basically it was when we get the ball in the wide area, you don't even have to look. If you can get that ball in behind their back line quickly, Cal will be there, and that's been no secret. That's been a way in which we've played all year. So just fantastic that our guys gave such an incredible effort.
It's the team. I know you got more soccer to go, but this is a historic moment for this program. They've never been to the rounds of 16. I'm sure when you took the job, you heard all the people saying, well, they can't be as successful. They're in the shadow of women's soccer. What does it mean now that you're in the round of 16 and with more soccer to go?
Well, I think, ultimately, when I came here, I believed that this program had a lot of potential and could be in this position at some point with a lot of hard work from the group. And so it's always been that goal. And I think when you look at UCF as a whole as an athletic department, we have really lofty goals, and it's across multiple sports. Volleyball won a championship tonight, and they're going to be in the NCAA tournament. They get to go dancing too. I just think this is an athletic department that's on the rise, and I'm happy that we contribute to its success this year, and we want to build a top soccer program here for UCF.
When you look at
another big crowd coming off that SMU match, and they willed them. They didn't get phased when they gave up the early goal.
Yeah.
They kind of rooted you guys on.
Yeah, I've been so appreciative of the crowds that we've gotten in our last two games, and it makes such a difference to these guys. We feed off their energy, and I can't thank everybody who came out tonight enough.
Unbelievable. Scott Calabrese, who's done an amazing job. And what a way. Think about this. They're probably not going to play another home match. They got to play SMU. Even if they win that, odds are they're going to have to go to Virginia. If that's the last home game, what a way for Cal Jennings, one of the most decorated men's soccer players, and with respect to the Winston DeBose, who got inducted into the Florida Sports Hall of Fame this past November, and other soccer greats in the 90s and things like that. I think Cal Jennings now is is a legend in this program. I think from about 2000 to 2019, I can make the argument that Cal Jennings now is the greatest UCF men's soccer player of all time.
He's certainly among the best that we've seen, obviously of all time, but I don't know, maybe recency bias, I don't know, but it is a different game now than it was before. And wow, you're right. What a way for him. If this is the last time we see him on the home pitch, what a way to go out. So
where were you moment? It's a
right.
Where were you? Herb, do you have a little hidden story here on where were you when this goal happened?
Where was I when this goal happened? I was probably in an Uber somewhere or walking back to my hotel or something. Because I heard it when I got back to my hotel. I saw it on the Twitter, and the first thing I heard was, "It's a goal! It's a goal!"
Jeez.
Thank you, Mark.
Yes. You're welcome.
Gosh, it was. By the way, Eric, great call, excellent job. Hoping we see a lot more of that. The Andres Cantor of UCF, indeed, Eric Lopez. So.
I have more admiration for Andres Cantor now. I don't know how he keeps his throat very good with his lengthier goals.
Fair point.
I can't do it. That's why I usually do the multiple thing. It's kind of my Murph. It's kind of like my Jim Ross. You know how Jim Ross repeats like "so goal, so goal." That's kind of how I do goal.
You gotta call a bunch of golden goals and find yourself.
Yeah, Lord knows you've had enough of them in the course of this season. All right. We're going to, so congrats again to UCF Volleyball, UCF men's soccer.
Big match here, real quick. SMU,
yep.
Saturday night, 8:30 in Dallas. And I think this team has a chip on their shoulder. There's some unfinished business with SMU. I actually think they have an advantage because SMU's beaten them the last time. And that was a bitter pill to swallow for UCF at home. I actually think there's more pressure on SMU in this match because UCF will be able to adjust. And now SMU's like, oh, man, really? We got to play them again?
Mm-hmm.
God. And I think UCF wants a piece of it. And I think the first goal, and it's very redundant to say that, but I think in a match like this, it's very important. Because if UCF gets a first goal in there, there's some now they get some doubt into SMU. Whereas if SMU scores early, maybe UCF's like, oh man, But this is going to be something. This is going to be a heck of a match, and I just hope that the refs don't get influenced by outside things that can decide the match.
Saturday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. Is there a way we can watch this game too, Eric? Or it'll be on.
You gotta ask your boy Garrett, right? Isn't he working at SMU?
Yeah, I'll have to hit them up to see what they're going on. See what's going on over there. I thought that maybe it might be streaming on NCAA, but we'll keep you updated if you follow us on UCF_Banneret on Twitter, and we'll see. I'll reach out to Garrett Wolford and see if he's got some news on that for us. All right, we come back. Hoops, lots to talk about there. No more baseball for Murph. I know he's sad about that, but he can really riff on the basketball here. So stick around. We'll be right back. This is the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. All right, welcome back to the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Jeff Sharon, Brian Murphy, and Eric Lopez with you. Let's start the last segment here with hoops. Normally, we wouldn't put it in the last segment. There's a lot of news going on, but we'll start with the men's team as they are heading out to California for the Thanksgiving weekend at the what is it? The Wooden
Classic.
The Wooden Classic or the Wooden Legacy? Wooden Legacy is what it is.
Sure.
It's named after John Wooden, and it's in Anaheim, California. That's what I know. But this is after another big weekend W for UCF men's basketball. Charleston came into town on Saturday, afternoon game. The Knights fell down big early. Eric Lopez, you had the distinct honor of calling this game on the radio. It was good to hear you out there taking care of business. But it came down to but UCF fought back and took the lead on a pair of late Colin Smith free throws. And the Knights got the 1-point victory, 72-71. Colin had 23 points to lead the Knights, to go with 8 rebounds, and was 9 of 10 at the line. How about that for a big guy going 9 of 10 at the line? Dazon Ingram had 11 and 4 assists to go with 6 rebounds. 11 also for Dre Fuller on 4 of 8 shooting. And wow, UCF gets a win over a pretty doggone good Charleston team. I think we would all agree, right?
Yeah,
very good team.
They're pretty good. They
are.
are.
Yeah, very good team. I mean, this is a team that could win the Colonial. They've won 24 games or more the last 3 seasons, Murph, and they have one of the best guards in the country in Grant Riller, who's going to be playing in the next level. He's an Orlando kid. And Murph, the thing that jumped out to me was he got hot early. I mean, Charleston got hot early. Coach Dawkins made some changes in the starting lineup, which you said would be kind of a pattern this year early, as he tries to figure out what he has. So he started Darren Green in this game, who has been playing well up until this point. He started as well Avery Diggs and Brandon Mahan, and it didn't go well. They got behind 20-7 early. Charleston couldn't miss, and they certainly couldn't keep Riller away from the paint. Riller's a guy that gets a lot of pick and rolls and drives and dishes or goes to the basket, and they had problems. And the guy that really sparked them defensively was Dre Fuller.
God. Eric, I only saw like 4 minutes of this game, right? Because it was going on concurrently with the football game. But Dre Fuller, who I think we all have had high hopes for, and we know he can be a really high ceiling player, but has really struggled early on. Might be fighting with some confidence issues right now in his redshirt freshman season. I did not expect this. 11-6 or is 11-6 or 12-6 in this game, and a couple of. What happened with Dre Fuller in this game?
Well, he got his number called, and as you know, Coach Dawkins have said, be ready to go because your name could be your game in this particular day. It's about matchups, and Dre, Dawkins is like, I got to find an answer here. None of my other guys can guard him, so they brought Dre Fuller to guard Riller. And I think that's the thing. He brought a spark offensively, but also defensively, because he was the one guy defensively for UCF that could stay with Riller and keep him in front of him. UCF went a little bit of a zone, too, to change momentum, so that worked. But, yeah, this was a coming-out party. And, Dawkins, in talking to him after the game, said, Fuller wanted the challenge. He wanted the challenge of guarding Riller. And, boy, I'm super impressed, Murph, as a two-way player. Obviously, the box score looks great. He hit a couple threes, was aggressive, 4 of 8 from the field. But, again, on the other side of the court, when they weren't playing zone, he was guarding Riller, including on that last possession of the game when Riller missed the three, and he kept him in front of him and forced Riller to settle for a lengthy NBA three-point shot. They don't win this game without Dre Fuller, because Dre Fuller was the only guy on the court that could cover Riller one-on-one when they didn't play zone.
And again, it's not like if you had told us that before the season that I'd be shocked, because I think, again, there are high expectations for him. But to give you context with this, coming into this game, he had appeared in all 3 previous games, had played a total of 17 minutes with a grand total of 0 points, 1 rebound, and 4 assists in those 3 games, shooting 0 of 3 from the field. So now plays 22 minutes, goes 11-6 with a steal and assist, and plays that well defensively. You're right. It's a massive coming out party. I understand that I might be overrating one game, but this is a huge sign for this team that is still finding out what it's got in these guys. And if this Dre Fuller is here to stay, man, that means a lot.
It remains to be seen whether he can continue to do this offensively. But the fact that Coach Dawkins, they trusted him, and that he trusted himself to guard Riller, who, again, was one of the best guards UCF will see all year.
Yeah.
I think you found maybe a defensive stopper here, guys. They might have found a defensive stopper that we wondered if they had one.
Right. It's sort of in that Chance McSpadden, Aubrey Dawkins lengthy wing role guy. Yeah.
And he is 6'5". I mean, that's the thing. He's got the size to do it. I'll say one thing. I think I alluded to this on a previous show. I don't know how good this team is going to be, but I'll tell you one thing. That I think they're going to be a lot of fun to watch. And this is a team that based on what we've seen so far, this is a team that I think a lot of UCF fans are going to fall in love with. I mean, are they going to go 27-3? No, I don't think so. But it's kind of like, it kind of reminds me of remember when the Magic had that heart and hustle team after Shaq and Penny left, and it was just a scrappy team that kind of got thrown together, and they almost got a playoff berth that year, and that's kind of still today among Orlando Magic fans is a really kind of beloved team. I think that this team could be that. I think they'll do better than go 500, certainly.
I think that's more upside. I mean, here's the thing, and this, Murph, and Todd, they have a lot of different pieces. So, Avery Diggs was a big factor in the Illinois State game. This game, he was not a good play because, as we talked in the last episode, Charleston plays small. And I think Dawkins has figured out I can adjust based on matchups. If a team goes small, we can go small. If I want to go big, we can go big and mix match. And who's got the hot hand? And by the way, 21 of 26 from the line, Murph. 21 of 26. You don't think?
Shocking.
Dawkins made a point to mention that, Murph.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, what have we talked about ever since he's been here? This team has been a subpar to awful free throw shooting team. I mean, really, they've sort of meandered around the mid 60s, and so not only just the team overall, but Colin Smith I don't want to degrade Colin. He's a very good player, but he's not been well from the line since he's been at UCF. To go 9 of 10, and then to have total ice water with 13 seconds to go, and to sink 2 free throws, 1 to tie it, 1 to win it. I mean, I don't know. I have less confidence that will sustain itself, because I think this team still is a mediocre free throw shooting team. I just based it off of history, but that was quite a moment for this team to do that, and especially for Colin to step up in that moment.
Yeah.
Well, and Murph, and what's amazing about that, he was in some foul trouble, and yet he kind of sparked the comeback. They cut it down to 1 at the half when Colin Smith took 2 charges defensively, back-to-back possessions, that really sparked the Knights' run to cut it down to 1 at the half. So Not only did he have the 23 points, 8 rebounds, but they don't show the 2 charges that he took. And while he only had 3 assists, the passing that he does, when teams are doubling him, he's finding the open guys. The ball is moving, Brian, and you've heard, and Dawkins talked about this. It's a numbers game here. We're not one team. It's a team of 12, whatever the number is.
Right.
And they are moving the basketball. They're not playing too much ISO. The only time they really play ISO when it breaks down is when Dejan Ingram, things break down and he tries to, attack the basket, which he was very effective in doing that on Saturday. It was only 2 of 6 from the floor, but kept putting pressure on the Charleston guards, went 7 for 10 on the line, and more importantly, put UCF in got him in the penalty to shoot free throws late in that game. But Colin, what I thought was fantastic, and just makes all the little plays and the big plays. You could tell, Murph, that Colin has embraced this bigger role and this bigger leadership role, right? Yeah. It's a big difference. Last year, and then nobody will ever admit this, but when you're like the 4th option at best, you're it's a little different than when you're the number 1 guy.
Yeah, you're right, and I think he's changed his game too. I think he's better. He's clearly better offensively and defensively. Defensively, he's done things already in the paint that I didn't think he could do. But we didn't really see much of that last year, obviously, because we had Taco Fall. But now that he's doing it, he is a better defensive player than I gave him credit for heading into the season. Just a couple of things also that stick out. 1, 11 turnovers. That's encouraging for this UCF team. That's a good number. And 2, we talk about the defense. Charleston was scoreless for the final 2:44, and I think went over 3 from the field with a turnover. Again, this team's going to win by defense. As long as Johnny Dawkins is the head coach of this team, they're not going to outscore you. They have to D up, and that's what they did again. I am so interested now, as I was heading into this game. I thought that Johnny put the right lineup out there, right? After the Illinois State win, those are the 5 guys you wanted. You wanted Ingram, you wanted Green and Mahan on the wings. You wanted Smith and Avery Diggs at the posts on the 4 and 5s. That lineup was the lineup that they should have started this game with. But obviously it didn't work. So now when you come back for this game against Penn, segue, will they start Dre Fuller? I mean, he did play 22 minutes. I'm again,
including all the crunch time minutes.
This team is endlessly interesting. They may not be NCAA tournament good, and I know we don't want to overrate wins against decent teams. They're not beating Arizona yet, which they might get a chance to. But this is a fun team, and it really is an intriguing team, if nothing else.
Yeah.
By the way, real quick, Murph, because Taylor Young was thinking the same thing you were, but he gave credit to Dejan Ingram as a former point guard. He was obviously the analyst in the game with me.
Sure.
He said the thing that stood out to him: 4 assists, no turnovers for Dejan Ingram. That was the thing that stood out to him about Dejan Ingram's box score. And I think that was big. And by the way, I want to give a salute to the UCF fans that went to this game. I was blown away, boys. Almost 4,500 fans were at this game, including a lot of students. I'm not going to lie. I mean, with the football game going on and the volleyball next door, I'm thinking, what kind of crowd we're going to get? But actually, it was a good crowd, and they were into it. And really, I think, rallied these guys. The guys felt that emotion from the crowd, and I think helped them get through this game.
Yeah, it was encouraging to see. It's kind of like, interesting. I didn't mention this earlier when we talked about the volleyball, but it was almost like that the crowd really did. People who don't think the crowd matters, it does. They especially at the volleyball match. The following day, the UCF women's team actually came over and watched the game. We'll get to them in a second, but yeah, that you're right. Watching that game, from what I saw, that was a big confidence booster. Helped UCF get in the game, and now they're at 3-1. Heading into 3 games in 4 days over Thanksgiving weekend out in Anaheim, starting with Penn, who comes in at 3-2. Then the Knights would play either Arizona or Pepperdine, depending upon the result of the Penn game and their game. It's at the Wooden Legacy. It's a guaranteed 3 games, so it's one of those brackets that starts in the middle and then goes out. And then on the other side of the bracket is Providence, Long Beach, Wake Forest, and Charleston themselves. So chances are, I don't know what the chances are, but there's a possibility UCF could face Charleston one more time. in this tournament. But if UCF plays well against Penn, moves on, it's a pretty good chance they play Arizona. That would be a really good measuring stick for this team. And then and then obviously whoever comes out of the other side. So Murph, looking at the field here just real quick, this is going to be how big of a test is this going to be for UCF now with this kind of a field out in California?
Pretty big, certainly, and not just the Arizona game, but right away the Penn game sticks out. They're kind of a weird team that they can lose by double digits to Rice, but then they can also come back and beat Alabama and beat Providence in overtime. And so it's
typical Ivy League team.
Yeah, I mean they're going to. It's gonna be it's a big test. It definitely is a test for this team, especially on the West Coast. They flew out there today. Actually, I tried to see if there was gonna be any media availability this week, and no, there isn't, because they flew out to California on Tuesday to get acclimated with the time change. And then certainly, if you win that game against Penn, more than likely you would face Arizona, who, despite all of the controversy of the last couple of years with Sean Miller and that program surrounded with, all the infractions they have faced, they are crushing kids right now. They are and they have the talent. Arizona has the talent to be a Final Four team, Elite Eight team. It may not come together, but right now they are absolutely steamrolling kids. So we'll see if UCF matches up with them on Friday. Unfortunately, I believe that would be right during the football game. So, or maybe right after. It could be the late game on Friday night.
I think it depends on the result. It depends on who wins, who loses. Looking at the bracket, the loser of the UCF Penn game would play Friday at 9 p.m. The winner would play at 11:30 p.m. Eastern time. So those are Eastern times, by the way. So
we might have. I can guarantee you, if UCF beats Penn and Arizona beats Pepperdine, we will have that game on in the Spectrum Stadium press box.
Yeah.
After tip-off again scheduled?
For UCF and Penn?
No, we know that. UCF Arizona, potentially.
Oh, well, if they both win that first round game, it would be 11:30 p.m. Eastern time on Friday. If they both lose, and like you said, Arizona's playing Pepperdine, that game would be, then those two would face each other at 9 p.m. Eastern time on Friday.
Wow, Murph, huh?
Yeah, well, Arizona's not losing, so they'll be playing at 11:30. The question is, who will they play? And we'll see.
Right. Just again, a reminder: the game on Thanksgiving night between UCF and Penn at 8:30 Eastern will be on ESPNU. By the way, so if you're looking for some late night viewing while you've completely stuffed yourself with Thanksgiving goods, there you have it, UCF basketball. And the TV schedule is obviously to be determined for Friday, and then they're all off on Saturday, and then they all play again on Sunday. So,
do we know who's calling that tournament? Is that in the notes?
Yes. We've got Roxy Bernstein and John Crispin doing the game for ESPNU. They might have two crews doing that tournament. I don't think those two guys are going to be doing...
Yeah, they usually do.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to be doing 4 games in one day. I mean... we would do 4 games in one day. Why not? But, All right. That brings us over to the women's basketball team. And I alluded to this. They played one game this week, and they boat raced Delaware 75-49 to go to 3-2 on the year. For the Knights, it was a big game, a breakout game for Georgia Gale. She's one of the newcomers out there, and she is a sharpshooter. She is here to shoot from outside, and she was 6 of 12 in this game, all from three-point range, for 18 points to lead UCF. Siani Martin scored 16 on 6 of 7 from the field, including 4 of 4 from three-point range. We're going to have a talk with Coach Abe about this, because all this outside shooting is really starting to worry me about how much... Remember the last couple of years, she was always like, I want to pound the ball inside. Now she's got people shooting the ball from all over the gym. KK Wright was 3 of 9 from the field, 11 points to go with 11 assists. And Masani Kaba had 4 points but 7 rebounds to lead the Knights. And they wrecked Delaware in this game, particularly in the second half. held them to 23 points in the first half, 26 in the second half, and that was pretty much it. Put up 23 points in the fourth quarter to pull away. I thought it was a great moment, by the way, after this game, where as soon as it was over, UCF women's basketball and then the American volleyball final were happening at the same time. UCF women's basketball obviously in the big arena and volleyball in the venue. And as soon as the game was over, the entire UCF women's basketball team snuck into the venue, still in their uniforms. They hadn't even gotten dressed after the game. They were still in their uniforms, sweat still dripping down their foreheads, and were in there, and they were watching the game. And then they snuck over behind our scores table, and they were sitting right behind the UCF bench. And then if you see the video clip of the final, they were leading the cheers in the crowd, which was fun to watch. And then they all jumped into the dog pile afterwards when UCF clinched the match. I thought that was really cool. And the volleyball players certainly alluded to that, because they're like, hey, we all know what we all go through. And to see that support from our fellow student athletes who know what we do, that means that meant a lot to us. And you could tell that, and I like to see this because it shows this sort of unity among the athletic department, among the student athletes in particular, that sometimes you see, but when you see it to that level, I mean, that makes a tremendous difference. So Coach Abe and her team, and Coach Dagenais talked about it afterwards too, Eric, about how Coach Abe was there and Greg Lovelady was there watching the game watching the match at the end, and they were, they've kind of become really good friends on the coaching staffs, and that was good to see. But it was, nonetheless, UCF women's basketball still trucking along at 3-2 now, and they play Stetson on Wednesday afternoon at 1 p.m. In the arena. So that'll be old school matchup, right, boys? Old A-Sun getting it together.
Woo!
Lynn Bria, by the way, former UCF head coach.
Yeah. Now
the coach for Stetson women's basketball, coming back to UCF. So it'll be good to see. It'll be good to see Lynn again. So and Stetson's a pretty good team. They're going to provide a little bit of a test, aren't they?
We shall see. Considering the majority of our audience, probably by the time they tune into this, the game will have been played. We'll just fast forward and moving on in programming, as they like to say.
Yes.
To the further along and talk about the fact that following the Stetson game, they got a nice road trip here. Cavalier Classic against UCLA and JMU up in Virginia. Hello, the Bruins in the Pac-12, and then JMU is a team that nearly knocked off Maryland this year. So this week we're going to learn a lot more about this team that still had a lot of new faces. They got some new pieces, and they're still just trying to find themselves, and there's going to be some ups and downs. But, that's going to be a heck of a tournament.
Yeah, that's going to be big for them over the weekend as well. So we got some basketball coming up. We got football on Friday. We got the selection show on Sunday. It just never ends for us. It really does it. So as we wrap it up here on the Black Gold Banneret Podcast, Murph, I know you said you would not be able to make the trip out to California, and I know you're bummed about it, but what will you have in store for us this weekend?
Well, I did say that, but I didn't say that on air. So no, I will not be able to make the trip out to California for the basketball tournament, which no kidding here, is devastating. For me, I was really looking forward to that. I tweeted about that when they announced this tournament last Thanksgiving. I remember the announcement. I remember being at a Rosen Hotel on I-Drive when they said, by the way, we're playing in the Wooden Legacy class, next year. And I'm like, oh my God, it's in Anaheim. I got to be there. And I tried to make it work, but between the New Orleans trip and a possible UCF Bowl trip to Maryland, to Hawaii, to parts in between, it's just not going to work. So I will be here all weekend watching them from afar. I will be at the UCF women's basketball game on Wednesday, which, as Eric said, will probably be over by the time you've listened to this. And then we'll see what happens on Black Friday.
Maybe if you're watching this on your way back to the in-laws for Thanksgiving dinner. Eric, what do you got coming up?
That the old saying, they ride the right-hander, right, Murph? You just ride them out, and I kind of feel like Moore Hershiser in 1988, Tommy Lasorda, just bring him out. I call the men's hoops win. I call the dramatic goal, Sweet 16 for soccer, so I will be filling in doing women's basketball. Keep the hot hand going. Last week, Jeff, you said it was a big defining game. If I lost, I wouldn't get asked back. Well, I won, so now they're asking me back again. So
there you go.
I'll be doing that. Then I'll be hanging out with Murph on Friday, Black Friday, South Florida, UCF. And then I'll be covering a Magic Warriors game, finding out where UCF Volleyball will be placed, which I already know, but I'll watch anyway.
Well, it'll be interesting to see.
Watching a bunch of Warrior players that I don't even know who they are anymore.
We'll see. We'll see what happens with obviously Sunday. I will be at the women's basketball game tomorrow, or Wednesday, I should say, doing PA, and then enjoying the Thanksgiving holiday, and then I'll be at the selection show as well on Sunday. So it should be fun. So we got a lot of people to thank on this Thanksgiving week. Thanks again to Nathan Bond. Make sure you follow him at Bulls Nathan SBN on Twitter. Also, thanks again to Coach Dagenais, UCF VB Todd on Twitter as well. And thanks again to you guys. Have a happy Thanksgiving. Safe getting around, because even if you're staying in town, it's a pain in the neck getting around sometimes. But happy Thanksgiving to you guys. I really appreciate everything that you guys have done, and it's been great. We got another busy weekend ahead of us, don't we?
Well, Jeff, I want to stop you with your sentimentality and keep up with something that's actually important. Eric, you mentioned earlier in this podcast that Cal Jennings, the excellence of his execution. And to keep our quota going here, how did you not drop a Bret Hart reference into that sentence?
Well played, Mark. Well played.
It's you know what?
There we are.
It's all right. We're not disappointed.
The podcast can officially end. I know I ruined Jeff's Thanksgiving message. I do not care, because we had to get a wrestling reference in here.
Well, you have to mention Bret Hart on Survivor.
This is what I deal with
on
folks.
Survivor Series, on post Survivor Series weekend, no less.
I'm just proud of you, Murph, that you picked my goal to listen to over the Survivor Series, because that was head to head.
I totally blanked on the Survivor Series. I was too wrapped up into what you were doing.
Thank you. That should, yes.
Yeah.
Well played.
Absolutely.
From our family to yours, Knight fans, thank you so much for listening to the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. We are thankful, of course, for you guys spending time with us, and we hope we at least got you through the drive down to the in-laws, of course. So for Eric and Brian and all of us at Black and Gold Banneret, Luke Saris, Anthony Lenahan, Jeremy Brenner, Chaz Short, all of us here on staff, and all of us at SB Nation, Eric and
Derek Warden,
and of course Eric and Brian and myself. This has been the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Happy Thanksgiving. Have a safe weekend, everybody. We'll see you when you get back.